Ever since I became a coaster enthusiast, roller coaster manufacturers have been some of the most intriguing parts of roller coasters for me. I love visiting different ride manufacturers' websites to see what types of rides they're selling and also their portfolio of rides that they've made in the past. There's just something about learning about the company behind your favorite coasters that I find so fascinating, and I love spotting differences and similarities between manufacturers. Now, I could probably make a video on that topic alone, but the reason we're all gathered here today is for some of those juicy, controversial rankings. Today, I'll be looking at the 26 manufacturers that I've ridden a coaster from across my 109 coaster credits and find the average placement of their coasters in my rankings. Now, I know that 109 isn't the largest number ever. It's certainly a lot lower than other coaster YouTubers such as Coaster Dash's 400, Airtime Thrills 500, or Canobie Coaster's 1000, but this still should be a pretty fun video anyways. Real quick though, I just want to mention two things. First, it's pretty self-explanatory, but these are not my official rankings of my favorite roller coaster manufacturers. This is just a bare bones average ranking of their coasters, and it doesn't take into account stuff like reliability or how historic the company is. Because like spoilers, but my favorite manufacturer doesn't even crack the top 10 of this list. Also, there are a few companies that I haven't ridden a coaster from and thus won't be on this list. Those include Gravity Group, E&F Myler, Togo, Morgan, Din, and SBF Visa. With that out of the way, let's get into this. In last place at number 26 is Able Manufacturing with an average of 108. The only coaster I've ridden from them is this horrifically awful traveling dark ride coaster hybrid called Terminus. This is the only known ride that this company has ever built, and looking at their website, yeah, I don't think building amusement rides really fits under composite manufacturing, paint and finish coatings, methodology, or plastic thermoforming. But they made this ride, which is why they're on the list. Number 25 is Wisdom Rides with an average of 107. Like Able, I've only ridden one ride from this company, although this is a bit different because Wisdom has built 127 coasters. And the one I've ridden is actually not included in that number because I've ridden a traveling model, but I digress. Number 24 is FAJUME with an average of 104. I've ridden two coasters from this company, Wacky Worm, which is my number 103, and Wacky Worm, which is my number 104. Crazy, right? Number 23 is Myler Manufacturing, another kiddie coaster company I've only ridden one ride from, with an average of 101. The only coaster I've ridden is Tumbleweed, which is my number 101 coaster. It's an incredible ride. Number 22 is ZAMPERLA with an average of 98. This number would be higher if Raging Cajun was still classified as a ZAMPERLA, but RCDB now says REVERCHON made it. I also haven't ridden any of the Thunderbolts, so it has to be carried by Wild West Express, which isn't quite enough to bring ZAMPERLA up there. Number 21 is PINFARI with an average of 95, another company I've only ridden one ride from. That ride was a traveling Zyklon model that was pretty fun. It was actually surprisingly butter smooth, but it's still just a Zyklon. Number 20 is OD Hopkins with an average of 91, and this is yet another company I've only ridden one ride from. That ride is Log Flume at Family Kingdom, which I do consider a credit because it has a section that runs on wheels along track and there's no water. It's a decent log flume, but of course it's mainly just two drops and some meander, so Hopkins isn't going to be too high on here. Number 19 is ZIERER with an average of 88. Now at the moment I haven't been on any of the great ZIERERs like their Tower Coasters or Verbolten, although I should be getting on both Impulse and Verbolten next year. I've just ridden two larger scale Tivolis and two Flitzers, all fun rides but nothing out of this world. Number 18 is Chance Rides with an average of 86. Again, I've only ridden one coaster from them, High in the Sky, which is the other of the two weird rides I consider credits. When you ride, you feel a few sections where the train is coasting, so I see it the same as any other powered coaster. Anyways, it's a fun ride that gives a nice scenic tour of Seuss Landing, but it's not very thrilling. Number 17 is MACK Rides with an average placement of 74. I haven't ridden any of MACK's awesome new rides like Copperhead Strike, so this placement is based upon 3 solid Wild Mice, 2 Dark Knight clones, and Wild Mouse at Hershey Park. You see, this is what I mean when I say this list is not a real ranking indicative of my opinions on each company. I've only ridden Wild Mice for MACK, so of course it's not going to be in the top 10 or top 15, even though it would be if I made a list of the best manufacturers. Number 16 is REVERCHON with an average placement of 73, another company that I've only ridden Wild Mice from, although this is much more understandable because almost all the coasters that REVERCHON have made are Wild Mice. I should mention though that of the two I've ridden, I much prefer Raging Cajun at Six Flags America over Crazy Mouse at Del Grosso's. Crazy Mouse is solid but kinda slow, whereas Raging Cajun spins like there's no tomorrow, and is never trimmed at all. Number 15 is SCHWARZKOPF with an average of 69. I've ridden 3 Schwarzkopfs, the best being the Wizard, my number 55, the worst being Wildcat Adventure Park USA, my number 81, and the one right in the middle being Super Duper Looper, my number 71. All the Schwarzkopfs I've ridden have been really fun rides, but nothing out of this world. Only one of the ones I've ridden are the famed looping coasters, so expect that when I get on Triple Loop at Indiana Beach at some point, the average will move up. Number 14 is VEKOMA with an average of 68, and this is with me classifying Ninja at Six Flags St. Louis as an era. Considering that I haven't ridden a single new generation VEKOMA Extreme coaster, 68 is probably a lot higher than most people have, but the thing is that I'm a weirdo who enjoys VEKOMA SLCs and boomerangs, and I've enjoyed every single old VEKOMA coaster I've ridden. My highest ranked VEKOMA is Batwing at number 23, and the lowest is Sprocket Rockets at 99, even though that's still a great family coaster. VEKOMA has some of the most underrated coasters I've ridden, and that's why it ranks at number 14. Number 13 is GERSTLAUER, also with an average of 68, same as VEKOMA, but it ranks a tad higher because when you go into decimals, GERSTLAUER is a little bit higher. I've ridden 3 GERSTLAUERs, none of which are really those incredible rides that they're putting out nowadays. My highest ranked one is SpongeBob SquarePants Rock Bottom Plunge at number 53, and then I have Pandemonium and Fairly Odd Coaster numbers 75 and 76. This is just yet another one of those where it's a manufacturer that makes some of the best rides in the world, but I unfortunately haven't been on any of those rides yet. Number 12 is one of the companies I've ridden the most rides from, that being Aerodynamics with an average ranking of 65. The best aero coaster I've ridden is Magnum XL 200, my number 22, and the worst is Corkscrew at the same park, my number 102. As the most historic and significant manufacturer of all time, and my favorite roller coaster manufacturer, Aerodynamics has so many different coaster models, all that had varying degrees of success, and massively varying degrees of quality. Aero has rides evenly spread throughout my rankings, like Magnum XL 200 at the top, rides like Ninja and Demon in the middle, and Corkscrew and Cedar Creek Mine Ride towards the bottom. I love that you never really know what to expect from an Aero ride. Number 11 is MAURER rides with a surprisingly high placement of 62. When I think about it though, it makes sense because I've only ridden 2 coasters from them, Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket, which I rank in the 40s, and Laugh Track, which I rank in the 80s. If I'm being honest, I think that this average will only move down in the next few years because all I'm probably going to get on is their spinners or wild mice, but MAURER, you can enjoy this placement for right now. Now we're moving into the top 10, and next I have one of the last companies I've only ridden one coaster from, that being Six Flags with an average of 56. Now, right now you might be a bit lost, confused, and questioning whether you should have ate that extra rack of ribs last night. But yes, I did say Six Flags. That's because Viper at Six Flags Great America is the only roller coaster that Six Flags has manufactured themselves, and that coaster ranks as my number 56. If I'm being honest, Viper is one of the most overrated coasters I've ridden. There's just a lot of meandering around, and the airtime is pretty weak, but it's still a fun ride that ranks as my number 56, bringing Six Flags as a manufacturer into the top 10. Number 9 is WED Enterprises, also with an average of 56, but again, they rank ahead of Six Flags when you go into decimals. WED Enterprises, aka Walt Disney Imagineering, if you didn't know, is a branch of Disney, and they are behind much of the magic of the Disney parks. Typically nowadays when Disney wants a roller coaster, they'll go to a company like VEKOMA, INTAMIN, or MACK rides. However, back in the early days at Disney theme parks, Disney would design and build their own roller coasters. The ones I have ridden are the Alpha and Omega side of Space Mountain and Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. Now all 3 of these I last rode when I was at GP, so the rankings might shift a bit if I rode them again, which I will be doing in April, but 56 is the average when I use the memories that I do have. Number 8 is SNS with an average of 53. Now if we did this list at the start of the year, SNS would have come out on top because the only ride I had ridden from them was Max Force, one of the most underrated coasters out there that ranks as my number 4 coaster. However, this year I got on Joker at Great Adventure and Joker at Great America, which rank as my numbers 77 and 78. Unfortunately, bringing one of my favorite coaster manufacturers pretty far down the list, but they're still quite high up there. Next, a pretty huge gap as we jump up to an average ranking of 37, that title belonging to PTC. On the surface, this might be surprising because it's above a lot of other amazing modern manufacturers, but when you consider how much I love wooden coasters and how I've enjoyed every PTC I've ridden, it makes sense. My highest ranked PTC is Swamp Fox, my number 16, and my lowest ranked is Little Dipper at Great America, my number 87. But after that, the next lowest is all the way up at 46. PTC, I think, might be the single most underrated manufacturer of all time because they really kicked the roller coaster industry back into high gear with Racer 1972, and they've made so many amazing roller coasters throughout their over century-long history. I'm very happy that they ended up in this top 10. At number 6, I have B&M, my most ridden manufacturer. Thank you, Great Adventure. Also with an average of 37. This makes sense because I have a ton of B&M loopers like Gatekeeper, Rougarou, X-Flight, and Bizarro all stacked in that area around the upper 30s in my rankings. Then there's more B&M scattered around the top to middle of my rankings. My highest ranked B&M is Candymonium at 13, and my lowest ranked is Superman Ultimate Flight at Great America at 67. B&M might not have a whole ton of rides that are going to blow you out of the water and be forever top 5 rides, but their consistency is always there, and I'd consider every single B&M I've ridden a good ride. Now kicking off the top 5, we have GCI with an average of 35, and that's with both sides of Lightning Racer being counted individually. I feel like this should be much higher, but the thing is that most of the GCIs I've ridden are considered lower tier GCIs, those being Roar, Wildcat, Lightning Racer both sides, and American Thunder, although American Thunder definitely can't be low tier. That thing is amazing and so underrated. Anyways, hopefully I can complete my collection of doing all the worst GCIs soon. When I get on Invader, let's go. Now, number 4 is my second most ridden manufacturer, INTAMIN, with an average of 32. Now, if you look at my top 12 at the moment, it is just completely bombarded with INTAMINs. 8 of the 12 are, and it should be even more bombarded. I don't think that's how you use that word. But anyways, I should have another INTAMIN there too, but it decided to derail. After that, though, I just have a lot of random INTAMIN coasters strewn throughout the rest of the list. Like Escape from Gringotts in the middle, then you got the Impulses, Avatar Airbender, and the worst INTAMIN that I've ridden is Skull Mountain, which I rank as my number 100 on the dot. So those last few rides definitely drop INTAMIN's average, but you can't take away from the sheer amount of elite rides that they've put out. At number 3, I have Premier Rides with an average of 27. You know, Premier Rides pretty much only makes good coasters. They haven't had a true dud in terms of ride experience to date. I mean, other issues, yes of course, but not in the quality of ride. It's usually great. That applies to Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast and Joker's Jinx, both of which I rank in the 20s in my rankings, leading to an average of 27. I'm a sucker for acceleration Gs, it's my favorite force, and while there are certainly more powerful launches than on Joker and Freeze, the launch adds greatly to the already very intense experience, leading me to rank these coasters pretty high. Now down to the top 2, I have the last manufacturer I've only ridden one coaster from, CCI, with an average placement of 15. That coaster is the Boss, and of course if you just look at the Boss with an analytical coaster enthusiast eye, the pacing is not good, it's kinda rough around the edges, and it has GERSTLAUER trains, but honestly I could not care any less. This thing is just pure wooden coaster insanity. It feels so fast and tall and out of control, and there's just so many amazing airtime pops and some crazy laterals thrown in there with that tiny restraint. Unfortunately though, CCI's ranking is probably going to go down in the next year when I get on Kingdom Coaster and the CCIs at Mount Olympus, but it still should average out quite highly. And finally, number 1, you should probably expect it, is RMC with an average of 6. I've ridden 3 RMCs, one of each model. I've ridden Steel Vengeance, which is my number 1. Steel Vengeance. Goliath, my number 7, and Jersey Devil, my number 10. All these rides are of course absolutely phenomenal. RMC does not make bad coasters, it's pretty self-explanatory, and I highly doubt that any company will ever pass them in this average ranking for me. Unless Hades 360 was my first gravity group and that somehow cracked my top 5, but I highly doubt that it would be that high. So that's about all I have for this video. If you guys want to try this out, ranking manufacturers by average placement of their coasters, go for it and let me know what you got down in the comments, or even make a video like I did. Also, if you enjoyed the video, it'd be so awesome if you guys could subscribe or maybe leave a like, because that's the one way I know you guys are enjoying the content. Also, leave any suggestions, thoughts, or video ideas down in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys later. See you.